this sign speak to you? What does this sign speak to you? We care about your specific child. We care about their needs. We care about their safety. We're willing to take an extra step. Okay? And then if you put that sign up, you better not give a kid who's allergic to peanuts. I'm just being honest with you. Nowadays, that'll get you a nice little lawsuit. But it says we care. It speaks. That sign speaks to parents who are checking their kids in. Next one. So this is something that we still print out. You guys can kind of read that. It's actually, ours is front and back. And I print this out for this one reason only. I have visited numerous churches, and there have been churches that I have checked my kid into the kids' wing because I felt safe and secure and comfortable. And this has been big churches to small churches. And there have been churches that I did not check my kid in that were big churches to small churches because I felt like if I put my kid in there, she might not live. When there was one 16-year-old overseeing like 30 kids at this gigantic church and no one was there to check us in, no one was there early, no one was there to help, we just took her back to the sanctuary with us. And so we give the parents this card that says our kids ministry policy. Volunteers, all of our adult volunteers have been background checked. We make every effort to have at least 2 volunteers in our sprinkles and splash classes. That's our 2 youngest. So we are the Springs Church. So our classes are sprinkle, splash, wave, and riptide. That's our classes. I know, it's super cute. Restroom policy. Splash has a restroom in their classroom. Wave is allowed to use the restroom across the hall from their class. The teacher watches them walk to and from the restroom. Pickup procedures after service is in to take your number back to the children. So when you check in, your kid gets a name. It goes on their shirt. Parents take the other number. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Do you guys have a child check-in system? You do? You get the name and the badge? I'm going to ask a question. Do you guys make the parents show you the badge number to get their kid? Okay, and I'm going to tell you why you don't do that. Because all of you know each other. But when your guest comes, and if you're going to think, remember, we're transforming our minds the way we think. We're going to say, we don't want to be who we are today. God has a bigger and better plan. We're going to be different down the road. And we have to think down the road. Okay? So I had to fight this with our folks. They're like, it's so dumb that I gotta show my number. It's so dumb. I've known Sally for 42 years. Why do I have to show her? She knows who I am. You show that number because the lady behind you is new. And she has to show her number. And if she has to show her number, you got to show your number. Because everything we do and don't do speaks. Everything we say and don't say speaks. And if we're not making everybody show the number, then we're not going to make that guest show their number. And they're not going to feel safe that you're not going to give their kid to somebody else. Or the divorced dad that finds out they're attending here and picks her up and you didn't pay attention. Safety and security has to be taken, and it has to be the same for everybody. And I'm going to be honest with you. Remember where I said earlier, we got to get rid of our personal preferences? That's going to be a hard one. I fought that one before, okay? But you got to think about that. Can you see when I'm saying it? Like, oh, I didn't think about that, right? Is that okay? Okay, I hope so. Next one. So we have the kids' name tags, helps the teachers know their name. We don't want to call kids, hey, you kid. We want to go, hey, John. Hey, Billy. And I don't know how you guys are, but like when I was growing up, there was one teacher per class for 42 years. They did it every week. They never apparently went on vacation, I don't think. But in the life that I live in now, we have a different teacher every week. And so we have to make sure that they can know their names and call them by names. And we have a procedure in place because there's different teachers in place who may or may not know the kids and who may or may not know their parents, okay? This is just another one checking in. This is one of our hosts. Look at how happy she is. Just helping somebody get checked in here. And then let's move on to lobby and cafe. I'm still doing good. So in our lobby and cafe, we want to have hosts and hostesses. You guys do food and stuff, coffee, or?
Not since COVID, but we did before.
Okay, awesome. All right. So we want to have hosts or hostesses at that. We've just have gotten back where we're letting people pump their own coffee. We did it on our own. We switched from donuts to, and I know some of you are going to be like, I'm done listening to this guy. He is no longer credible once I say this. But we moved from donuts to like pre-packaged stuff. But I got to be honest with you, it's saving us a tiny fortune. Donuts, people would get 2, take a bite, throw them in the garbage. You know, and we had nice donut cabinets so people would get tongs and just touch their donuts. It was a really nice setup. But now we do I was spending $150 a week on donuts, giving them away. And now I spend $150 a month on prepackaged stuff that people still get a nice snack. It's still nice stuff. We go to Costco or Sam's. It's fine. Your lobby and cafe need to be clean, uncluttered, warm, and inviting. You need to think about dated versus current decor. Okay, so every few years, I'm going to change our lobby up, and I'll show you some pictures of that in a minute from before and after. And you might think the before was better, but I'll explain why it wasn't. Dated versus current decor. And that's something you guys just did that. And I mean this, I want to praise you. Listen, I pastored a church that had been around for 60 years, and building a new church facility about killed me. Okay? Every decision, pews, pew colors, pew carpet colors, like everything was sensitive, okay? So I get that. But what I am telling you is you have to think about dated versus current decor. You have to think about your outside, everything. You got to think about it, and you got to say, hey, I know Uncle John built that back in 1975, and I feel so attached to it. But you got to say, no, but the new guest that needs Jesus Christ and needs eternity is more important than Uncle John, what he built 35 years ago. We have to move past personal preference and go, we have to think about the kingdom, okay? Jesus only ministered for 3 years. 3. All right. We need to have comfortable seating, hangout community spaces. We need to have free water, coffee, tea, hot, iced, or both. We need real creamer. And I'm just going to be straight with y'all. Don't be cheap. Don't be cheap when it comes to the creamer. Get the real creamer. Buy that junk. If you're getting cheap creamer, conviction of the Holy Spirit may be upon you. That's all I'm saying. Okay? All right. Get real creamer. Welcoming background music. Can I say this to you? Background music should be in your lobby and should be outside in your guest area, whatever you decide to do outside after we do this, because I'm praying you're going to get together and be like, we got to do this. We only got 8 seconds. This is important. And but you need to have music out there because music is so helpful. Food and coffee breaks down barriers. Music breaks down barriers. Smiles breaks down barriers. Do you know how hard it is for somebody who's far from God to come to your church? You don't even like to visit churches. But somebody who doesn't even know Jesus, do you know how hard it is for them to come to your church? And we've got to say to ourselves, I got to break down every wall. And when I see that mom walk up, I've got moms that come to church who end up sitting in the lobby because their kid cries the entire time and won't go to class. And do you know what I do? I make sure that I get out to that mom. If I'm preaching or if I'm not preaching, I make sure I get out to that mom and I say, I want to tell you something. The effort that you make is monumental to get here. And I know you could just say, I could watch online, it'd be easier. But you matter to us. And I want you to know, even if your kid's being loud, I will live with that in there. And we're going to get your kid into class so you can have a break too. We're going to work with you on that. I've had it take 3 months, 6 months, but I speak to every person, to every individual. And I have others who do that too. We have to be aware of every situation. Because you're just 1 second away of them going, why am I here? And they just have to matter. A picture here. So this was our lobby. This was our lobby before. And it looks great. It's awesome. We got our Live, Love, Lead launch back there. I helped pick out all that stuff. It's cool. Arrows and crosses and all that. And there's all this cool pictures. Pray and love. Nothing wrong with any of that. But I'm going to tell you something. Hear me out on this. And ladies, don't get mad at me. Okay? But I'm going to speak some truth. If we can get people to church, would that make you happy? Would it make you happy? So I'm going to throw some numbers out, but I don't have the exact numbers. And so if you Google this, you look it up. But, 98.9% of all statistics are made up anyway. So if a mom comes to church, I think it's like a 17% chance the whole family will come. And I know that's offensive, moms, and I'm sorry, but it's just a statistic. If kids come to church, it's like 27% chance the whole family will come. But if I can get dads to come to church, it's like 96% the whole family will come. And so we said, hey, and again, this better not be live nowhere. We have a tendency in the church to be very feminine. And I'm going to just shoot you straight, because the women do most of the work. The women show up. Men have been absent. But we have become feminine, and what I'm saying is nothing wrong with any of this, but this is, no guy is walking in and going, bro, do you see that because he lives sign? I love that. And so we start our services off with more of a heavy, upbeat, more guy, manly kind of song. You get what I'm saying? A little heavier on the drums. We try to keep the music a little louder in the lobby. And then the next slide, this was before. And then this was after. Now, of course, none of our coffee, so I just took this one day when I was down there, so it wasn't a day. We would still have coffee and everything up there. But we just cleaned it up, and that is just wood and a stainless steel emblem of our logo with lights behind it that I can change colors with, okay? In the church, we have corrugated steel in a pattern on the back wall of the stage, and we have all kinds of lights and stuff. But we go, how do I get men here? Like, we just launched a new ministry called Men of Valor, and we've been doing a men's prayer breakfast. Every church has a men's prayer breakfast. Usually the same 12 men come to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you go, oh gosh, I said it out loud. I forgot to use my filter. But if I want to reach young men, we launched a new thing, Men of Valor, and I had cornhole and meat, barbecue, and Jesus. So we had competition, meat, and Jesus, and had 40 men show up. But hear me out on this. If we care about men, and we recognize that if they come and they get sold out for Jesus, that it's going to be amazing for what God is going to do in their family, and that is going to transfer to the church, we're going to say, I'm willing to give up some of my preferences to make things a little more manly. And that's what we did. So we just made things a little more manly. And so this is what it was. Next, please. Oh, go back to that last slide. Sorry. So we celebrate things. Can you guys see that? This was from a long time ago. So it is, maybe it is 273 now or 274. This was 228. But anyway, that's on our lobby wall because we celebrate baptisms. Yes.
For that to be more manly, where's your bacon station?
This is a fair question. This is a fair question from the guy who doesn't talk. He is smiling now, though, and I'm happy about that. So I will tell you, on the day we launched our Men of Valor, we did have lots of meat, okay? And for Father's Day, I created our own coffee blend, and every dad can get their own coffee blend. It has our Men of Valor logo on it. We had it made. I bartered with the guy out of Illinois. It is an amazing, it is not your regular old Folgers coffee. It is an amazing blend of coffee. But it says Men of Valor, and it says, has our church name, the Spring Church, Men of Valor, and it says Hero Blend. And then, where's my phone? Hang on. You guys started this. It's his fault. Hang on one second. Because I take pictures of everything because I can't remember nothing anymore. Let's see if I can find it. Give me 1 second. I only got 9,000 pictures on here. It should be close. Oh, come on. I won't look for very long. Oh, there, no. There it is. There it is. You can't see this. And it says the Spring Church Men of Valor, and behind it has a lion's face. And it says Hero Blend made with 100%, makes me cry. I am a crier. I don't care what you men think about it. Made with 100% courage, bravery, and strength. And so we're challenging our men to step up. And so we'll see what happens. But and there is also bacon jerky. That's the point. They have coffee or bacon jerky for Father's Day. So I do think about the bacon. I just want you to know. And I have a manly griddle that I cook bacon on all the time. So next picture. So this is just our hangout space, and it's not gigantic, but you'll see the tables and the chairs, and you want to have space where people can hang out, where people can talk. And so you may not have that in your current space. You may not have room for that, but you can create, you can get creative. I am in 4,600 square feet. Please never complain about what you can and cannot do at this church with this much facility. You guys have so many options. I'm not kidding you. It's hard for me because when I travel around and I see it, I'm like, God, I don't understand why it hasn't happened for us yet. But I promise you, if we had a 10,000 square foot building with 300 seats in it, we'd be running 600 in 3 months. I'm not kidding you. And prior to COVID, if we'd have had that building, we'd been running 1,000 in 3 months. Because there's no churches like on our side of town. Like people are literally, we were getting 20, 30 visitors a week, but they just didn't stay because we didn't have room. And you can only preach so many times on Sunday. But this is this part of our hangout space here. Next slide, please. Forgot your Bible, then borrow one. Need a Bible, then take one. What does that speak to you? What does that speak to you?
This book's important.
Huh?
This book is important.
This book is important. That's exactly what I wrote down. The Bible is important. But it also says you are important. It also says if you don't have a Bible, we want to provide you with a Bible. If you forgot your Bible, we want you to take a Bible. We want to get a copy of the Word of God in their hands. Next slide, please. This is just our area. So right here is a box. We'll see a picture of it. That's one of our donation boxes. We have this TV up, and it just scrolls announcements and stuff. And then anything, these actually will flip around, and they have shelves on them. So if we're doing like a food collection, we'll flip around and put the food on there. You guys probably do Operation Christmas Child, same thing. This particular picture here, we were doing a food drive for Easter. We do a food drive every year, and we take up like 1,500, 1,700 pounds worth of food and take it to the local food bank. We want to help them. Next slide. So this is a space we created outside with a 10 by 10 tent and lawn furniture. This is in our parking lot because we literally herd people in like cows. I'm just being honest with you. That's not how we want people to feel. But we have a service every hour. So we have, we were doing 8, 9, 10, 15, and 11:30. And over the summer, we're doing 9, 10, 15, and 11:30. But we created this space. And so people can sit out there and you can pray for my guys because they're setting that up in about the last 4 days. It's been 115 degrees in Tucson. So move on, let's go. So communication, I'm going to move through this kind of quick because I've already said it a lot. Communication, everything speaks. We want to think about insider versus outsider language and messaging. We want to think about that. Did you guys know that we have our own language? It's a language that we speak and other people don't even know what we're talking about. Like, it's often confusing for our guests, things that we say, like even simple things that I grew up with my whole life, like lost and saved. I'd be like, hey, you're lost. And they're like, no, I'm here. Like, no, you're lost. Like, no, I have GPS. I'm here. So like at the Springs Church, we might, instead of saying lost, we might say far from God. They're far from God. Instead of saved, we might talk about saying yes to Jesus. It's just little things, but it's things that we need to think about. But again, that'll be personal preference because you might hear the pastor start changing his terminology. You're like, what? Why you say it that way? And you need to go, oh, that's because my pastor's so amazing. He cares about people in the building that might not understand our lingo. So we want to think about that. We want to have our environment should be warm and welcoming. We should have great signage and wayfinding. I'm going to keep saying that over and over and over. I have not walked around your facility yet. I am going to, and I am always honest when I visit churches. But you need to have great signage and wayfinding. I'm in 4,600 square feet, and I got more restroom signs than I bet you guys do. And I'm going to show you pictures of it in a minute to prove it, okay? But I'm just telling you, restrooms are important. Have you ever had to go? Have you ever not been able to find a restroom? Have you ever had a kid that needed to go? Yes. Restrooms are important. Verbal communication that is clear. So like things like we might say instead of tithes and offering, because like somebody who doesn't come to church, they might not understand. We'll teach about tithes. We'll teach about 10%. But again, remember I said to you earlier, we believe in generous living because we serve a generous God. It's time for our generous living moment. And I'm going to say, if you're a guest today, we never tell guests not to give. A new person who's never gone to church before will take anywhere from 1 year to 2 years to start giving anything. So we never tell them not to give. But what I will say to them is we have a great way for you to give today. And I'm going to not repeat this later. I'm going to repeat it later, so I'm not going to say it. It's on my notes. I get ahead. I'm sorry. Verbal communication is clear. Digital app, website, texting services that are clear and updated and used. That's important. Signage, next slide, signage and wayfinding. So clear, directional, bathrooms again, outsider language. Call it what it is on the outside, then brand it on the inside. I'm going to show you pictures of what that means in a minute. We want to think about what makes it easy for new people when they come. Like you're like, go down to the room to Heavenly Angels. What the heck is Heavenly Angels? Yeah, just go right down to Common Ground Hebrews coffee shop. You didn't get my Hebrews joke, did you? But anyway, all right. Think about call it what it is on the outside, then brand it on the inside, and I'll show pictures of that in a minute. Okay, so here we're at pictures. So restroom, want to make sure that people know how to get there. This is where the kids' signage is. It's literally around the corner, but I want to have signage everywhere. I want people to see it. I want people to know it. I want it to be easy. Next slide, please. This is our only 2 doors into our worship area. And we have our welcome sign there. And those doors are always going to be opened and closed by someone else. People don't open and close their own doors. We open and close doors for them. We hold every door. Next sign. What does that say? It says you can go left or right to go pee-pee. All right? Left or right. Restrooms. Next one. I told you, I love my restroom signs. Restrooms, because we want people to know how to get there. We have great signage. Here, look at this one. So Sundays, these were our old times, but this was a picture I had in here. Sundays 8, 9:20, 10:40, and 12. So we have multiple services at our church. Now we do that partially because we have to, because we only have 4,600 square feet, so we have to have multiple services. But I want to tell you, if I ever started another church, I would never start another church with one service, ever. I don't even know a pastor right now that would launch a church in my circle of church planners that would launch a church with one service. We would launch a church with two services. I'm going to tell you a couple reasons why. One, we no longer live in a monolithic society. For those of you that are 47, because I'm 47 and older, when you were a kid, you watched the same 5 or 6 channels as everybody else in your world. Correct? From that time frame, can somebody name me a news anchor that everyone would have known? Walter Cronkite. Because we lived in a monolithic society. If I wanted to listen to the radio, I could turn the dial and we were all listening to the same thing. We had those options. We lived in a monolithic society. We don't live in a monolithic society anymore. Pull your phones out. Pull your phones out. Grab your phone real quick. Whatever music app you have on your phone, pull that music app up. Pull the music app up. Now, if all of you play Christian music, I'm going to be so mad. Because I know you're lying, one. But just hit a song that you listen to. And it better not have curse words in it because Pastor's here. All right?
Oh, no.
I listen to 80s music when I ride my bike. I love 80s music. I do listen to Christian music too. Everybody play it, come on. I'm making a point here. I want to know what Quiet Guy's playing. What is Quiet Guy playing? What is it? Dave Matthews. I could have guessed that. All right. Now, you can pause that, but listen to me. We live in a society of choices where every one of you right now at a touch of a finger can listen to rap, jazz, classical, rock, 80s, 90s, ballet, whatever. We don't live in a monolithic society anymore. And the church has to stop living in a monolithic society mindset. Because we live in a polythic society where everybody has choices. And people on Sunday mornings are going to be looking for those choices on your sign. And so I'm super proud of you guys for having 2 services. Another reason that I love 2 services and wouldn't start a church with just one is this reason right here. As I tell our folks every week, worship one, serve one. If you're not going to worship one, then don't serve. If you're going to serve and go home, then don't serve. Because you're just going to burn out and you're not getting fed and you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And so I want everybody to be able to come. There's no excuse now not to serve because you can serve and still go to church. So worship one, serve one. So that's what we talk about. So multiple services. You want to give your guests more choices and opportunities to attend. We're looking right now at maybe staying at our 3 services, even past summer, and going, could we do a service on Thursday? Just Thursday evening. It's random and weird, I know, but how could we work that out? Thursday night services have actually been seen to be very popular because everybody doesn't get off on Sunday. So we're just looking at those opportunities. Next picture. This is our donation box. Branding, outsider language. If this was at a church, insider language, they'd say tithe. And a new person walking in would be like, tithe? What is that? So donations, I've seen people call them generosity boxes. I actually love that better. If I ever change that decal, I'm going to change it to generosity box. Probably, but we just use outsider language. Next slide. You see the connection card? What's the connection card say underneath it? New here, start here. That ties together with the new here, start here outside and the new here, start here parking. And what does that speak to you? If you're new, what does that speak to you? We're expecting you. We care about you. We want you here. We expect guests. Guests are needed, guests are wanted, guests matter. That's one of our just tithing envelopes there. Next sign is our kids' welcome area, kind of seen that. So originally when we did our kids' wing, we put signs on all the doors. They're really cool. Wave, sprinkles, you can see them on the doors here. And every single Sunday parents would go, what age group's my kid in? We're like, wave. Huh?
Yeah.
What? And then we wised up and we put signs above the doors, wave 1st through 5th grade. That's outsider language right there. And then we brand the room on the inside with big, huge decals, Riptide. Rooms are decorated with, surfboards and stuff, whatever. All right, next one, verbal. So you want to introduce yourself. I want to encourage you, like if I'm taking up the offering, it says lead Pastor Jeff Goodman. How many of you know in this room know Pastor Darren? And raise your hand if you know him. Okay, if a new person's here, they don't have a clue who he is. And so if Darren introduces himself, say, hey, I'm Pastor Darren, or it's up on the sign, I would say do both. Hey, I'm Pastor Darren. So we're so glad to have you here. We love guests at our church, however you handle that. But introduce yourself, be authentic, personable, engaging. You want to use outsider-friendly language when you're talking. Explain what's about to happen. So I'm going to give you an example. So when we do communion and we have new people, and of course, we explain that communion is for people who know Jesus, that have said yes to Jesus. And we explain that we have open communion, that whoever would like to partake about that can partake of that. But you have to have said yes to Jesus. And if you haven't said yes to Jesus, this is totally okay. Because we have people in here all the time who have not said yes to Jesus. And we just want you to experience this. And one day when you've said yes to Jesus, you're going to do this. It's going to be amazing. And we say, hey, we want you to take the cups. So I don't know what you guys use, but we use these little cups that are pre-done. Do you guys do those? Or do you have the whole little poury things and all that? You still have the plates and all that?
No.
You use the little cups?
We had way too many fermented pre-packaged.
Okay. Oh, we did. Yeah, we've had those too before. I caught my wife in there drinking them all. Just kidding. Not true, but funny. But we bought the little pre-pack that had the cellophane on top. You know what I'm talking about? And you have to be, honest to goodness, you have to be a ninja to get that cellophane off, and that was horrible. And so we have found a Lutheran church, and you can freeze these. I'm just going to encourage you. I'll send you the link. They look like a little chalice. They are so awesome. They look like a little chalice. In the bottom part of the chalice is the bread, and has a little peel back thing. And the top part of the chalice is juice and a little peel back thing. And you can freeze them, last up to a year. And so we buy those and we freeze them. They're really great. They're a little more than the other ones. But when we get those, when we're talking, it's like, hey, we're about to enter into a time of where we're going to be solemn. We're going to be quiet. We're going to think about what Christ did for us. But before we get to that time, let's go ahead and it's okay to be loud. It's okay for there to be a little noise. Let's go ahead and peel that paper back on the bottom. Let's get that bread, because I want to eliminate any and all. And you know what? It's okay if they laugh about that. It's okay if there's a little laughter right before something very serious, because if I can get all of that out and I can get that anxiety down and I can explain what we're doing, and then they get that all open, and now we're ready, and then I go, hey, I want to talk to you guys. Man, Jesus died on a cross for our sins. So we just want to use clear verbiage, and we don't want to just do things like this is, if you just get up there and you do things just because it's what you've always done and you know and everybody else is in the know, there's people in the room who are not in the know. And we care about those people in the room that are not in the know, right? We want to help them. We want to help them. We don't want them to feel like they're outside. Is there anything worse than going somewhere and feeling like you're on the outside? Do you have friends like that? I don't hang out with those friends very much, right? If you go somewhere and you feel like you're on the outside, you're not going to hang out there long. And so we want to feel on the inside. So explain what's about to happen. Easy and clear next step for your guests. I kind of already talked about that. Guest gift ideas. We are 3 pages. We're almost done. Guest gift ideas. So we give a first-time guest gift to every single guest. And we went through a couple things. Like sometimes people would get them to fill out the card. And they're like, hey, take the card outside and turn it in. And then there wouldn't be somebody standing there. And it was weird. And they wouldn't get their first-time guest gift. So I do it a different way. I think about it differently now just from time. I want people to come to the New Here cart, and I want them to feel special the second they get there. And I don't want them to feel like I'm trying to have a string attached to get their information. Okay? So I just want to give them a gift. And when I give them that tumbler, that coffee mug, or whatever it may be, a culturally relevant gift, a gift card, church swag, whatever it is, go to the next slide. When I give that gift to them, and they're walking around with that blue bottle inside, what do I now know about them as the pastor? They're new. And because all of you are now greeters, what do you know about them? They're new. And because all of you are greeters, what are you now going to go do? You're going to go speak to them. And you might, like let's just say I made jokes earlier, but I want to say this to you. We have a sign that says, I saved a seat for you, or you can sit with me. And we make sure we only give that sign. We wouldn't give it to this guy because he probably wouldn't want that to happen. But I'm joking. I'm scared he's going to gun me down right now. I feel the presence of ammo. Hey, I live in Arizona, man. We don't even have to have a concealed carry license. I carry most all the time. So I just said that on great. But anyway, We give that sign to somebody and say, hey, if somebody walks up and they need somebody to sit by, you got to go do it. Okay? And but you know what? If you see a single person come into your church and you let them sit by yourself, that is an atrocity. That is an atrocity for a church to be filled with people and to not have somebody get up from their seat in their comfort zone and go sit by someone. And not only would you sit by them, but say, could I get your name? Would you mind if we get your name? Would you want to go eat lunch today? You want people to come back to your church, take them out for lunch. And the pastor can't do that. He can't do all that. But I'm telling you guys, we got to think different. We got to transform our minds. So when anybody sees this gift at the Spring Church, they know to speak to them. And I'm telling you, my wife will say this, even COVID's hit us pretty hard. COVID has hurt us. We've lost people. Things have happened, feelings and all that, opinions and stuff. But I can tell you this, even right now, when I have people tell me all the time, they say, man, I felt so loved the second, this is actual words, I felt so loved the second I opened my door and stood up. And they walk up and people are welcoming them and they're speaking to them and they're talking to them. And let me tell you something, and everybody gets that same treatment because everybody is a guest and everybody is a greeter. And it matters. Guest follow up. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. To follow up, you have to have their information. And so this is what I was about to say earlier. So when we're going through the generous living moment, I will say this. I say, hey, if you're a guest here today, we have a great way for you to give. If you'll grab the connection card, and we found that we do this digitally. We have both available for online because we speak to our cameras too. We do it for online, and we tell them if you're more of a digital person, you can go to intothesprings.com/connect. Or if you would rather just grab the card out of the seat pocket in front of you, it says connection card, new here, start here. Grab that. If you'll fill it out and stick it in our offering box here in the back, or our offering box, our donation box out in the lobby, if you'll do that for every first-time guest we have, and this is just a great way for you to give, we make a donation to the Marana Food Bank. And so by just being here today, you're helping feed people. And people love that. It doesn't cost the church much money. And they take our $1 or $2 and they turn that into $8 or $9 worth of food, so it's helping our community out as well. We partner with the Marana Food Bank for many things. But then they turn that card in, and then we get that card, and within 24 hours, they get a call, text, or an email, and that's what they prefer. That's on the card. What do you prefer? If they say text, don't call. If they say email, don't text. Okay? We send them to them in their preference in 24 hours, and then we hand deliver a gift bag to every guest within 72 hours. And they get, for us, it's a gift bag that has, we've been doing this since day one. We did it when we were running 5 and when we were running 550. And that got complicated at 550, to be quite honest with you. We had to recruit people to do that. But it's a guest bag with, for us, it's nacho chips and salsa. And then there's a double-sided card, and it just thanks them for coming. And the one thing we never do, it's so crazy, we don't invite people back. And it has an invite. We would say, we want to invite you back to come back this next week. We would love to see you again. And then it has all of our information to Facebook, Instagram, website, all that stuff. So it gives them information. We do not talk to them. We are not creepy. Okay? People don't want to talk to you. They don't want you knocking on the door. We try to deliver that during the day. We try to hang it on their doorknob or put it somewhere they will see it. I want it to be like elves, and I kid you not. I want to give you another statistic. People that visit your church have decided if they're coming back in 8 seconds, but only 15% of people that come that visit your church, only 15% of people are going to visit your church a second time. That ought to scare you. Only 15% of people that come to your church are going to visit you a second time. But if you can get them back a second time, that number of them coming back goes up to 65%. So why do I want their information on their first visit? Why do I want to call them, text them, reach out to them? Why do I want to hand deliver a bag to them within 72 hours? Because I want them to come back a second time because their soul is at stake. It's not about chips and salsa. It's about eternity. And so we want them to come back that second time. And I kid you not, the number of people that have said to me, that I have heard them say to me, I came back because you came to me. I couldn't believe you drove to my house. And when they text me that, I say, well, I can't believe you drove to our house. So we have to be intentional. Intentional. And we have to change our thinking. You know the one thing that I battle every single week? Listen, I'm a church plant. I battle this every week. Can I get you three, do you mind just being embarrassed for 1 minute? Come up here, right here. Just come stand right here. Just come stay right here. Come on. Come on. It'll just take 1 second. I'm just going to do one little thing and then we're going to be done. I'm going to make you lay hands on me. I'm just kidding. It's not happening. So I want you to stand here and you to stand here and you to stand here. Okay? Nope, stay right there. And you stand here. And these people, they're your guests coming from they're coming from their cars. Just wave at them. Smile at them. You do. Smile. But let me show you what my greeters are doing all the time. And I literally, every Sunday, I go out and I say, hey, your pastor loves you and he loves that you love each other, but right now I need you to love others. And I need you to watch the parking lot. You can sit down. But I need you to watch the parking lot. All right, last page. We have to think about them and less about ourselves. It's what we were called to do. In our lobby, I showed you a picture, and I wish I had a new picture, but I didn't get one. But in our lobby, we had our scripture verse from John 14, talks about the spring of living water, which I still love, and we have it in another part of our building. But in our lobby wall now, it has our mission statement. Our mission statement is leading people to find and follow Jesus. And we have people sometimes, and they come and they'll say, hey, but Pastor, I was attending this church, and now I'm coming here, and that church stunk real bad, and now I'm coming here, and you're great, it's famous and on. I mean, it's awesome, and I love it. But my old church, they used to do this, this, and this, and I say, no, we don't do that here. This is what we do. And this may not be the church for you. And I have sent people packing. I said, this may not be the church for you. Because we're going to be here, we're going to lead people to find and follow Jesus. That's what we're going to do. And this just may not be the church for you. Because we're not going to be thinking about ourselves all the time. We're going to be thinking about others. We're not going to be looking for our personal preferences. We're not going to be looking to get what we can get. We're going to be looking to be missionaries. Right where Jesus has planted us, right here. So a few helpful tips. How do we know when we are winning? So what are you measuring? So you have to celebrate the wins. Every single week when I meet with my staff, we celebrate the wins. And so for us, big wins are salvations and baptisms. We really celebrate those. A win is on the kids' wing. We had a kid learn their memory verse. A win on the kids' wing is we had a kid that for 3 months has cried and wouldn't let his parents go to church, but he stayed in the nursery. That is a win because my staff works to get that kid to stay in there. Wins are not some highfalutin thing that we often think about. Wins are all over the place, and we need to celebrate the wins. And if you're over a team in here, you need to look for those wins, and you need to celebrate those wins. Nobody wants to be on the Titanic. And churches have forgotten to celebrate the wins, and it's important. Two other things, these are just small things. You guys probably do this already, but I always talk about these. Tech run through. So we always think about flow of service, and especially when it comes to guests, I want to really think about flow of service. When I was growing up, and I do not know what you do here, so if I say anything, please, I don't want to start a torment of laughter or whatever, but when I was growing up, it was some dude would welcome you, and then there was a song, and it would be like, hey, Sally, turn to page 297. No, it's on 242. Okay, all right, I'm on the wrong page. Hang on just a minute. And then they would switch, and they would sing a song, and then some other guy would get up and say, I have 4 announcements for you today. We're going to go here, and we're going to do this, and it's going to be great. And then we would sing another song, turn to page 591, and then they would do that. And then there would be a whole nother set, another guy come up, he'd take the offering up, and then there'd be another song, and then there'd be preaching. So we pause and we think, well, this is what I think about. I don't want to take people out of worship. I want to do everything I can to keep people in worship. So like we have a 5-minute countdown, worship starts. In between the first 2 songs, my music pastor, he usually steps up and he goes, hey, we want to welcome our guests. We want to thank you for being here today. We do this thing called check in, do good. And we're like, hey, if you guys will check in, it'll help us do good. Like for every 10 check-ins, we're giving vitamins to kids in Ethiopia or something. It changes every month. And so, but we pay for that. Another company handles all of that. But for every check-in that people do on social media, that check-in then goes to 200 to 400 of their friends. And I get more people finding out about our church via those conversations between people. Because if people know somebody at the church, they're more likely to come and more likely to stay. It makes those percentages go way up. And so, but we talk about that. And so, what was I saying? I'm sorry, I got off track. Where was we at?
Page 592.
Okay, so when we're going to worship, like, and so they sing, and then he welcomes the guests, and they're still playing, and they go right into the next song, and then we play, and when the last song's over, we go straight to bumper, and our bumper video is just bring the pastor up, and then the pastor comes up, and then I preach, and then sometimes we have switched this up over COVID, and we kind of do like it. We do our generous living moment kind of before the bumper now. We were doing it at the end, and we kind of go back and forth between that, but we have found at the end, people are like, hey, I want out of here. And so we've been doing it in the middle, and then they'll do the bumper, and then I preach, and then I do the ABCs of salvation, and then I do a prayer and a send out. But we're just thinking, like, how can I keep people in worship? Like, I don't want to bring people in worship and out of worship, and in worship and out of worship. I want to keep them because we want that ground to be tilled, man. We want that heart to be tilled for the word of God that the pastor is going to bring and speak to them. So when our band practices, they practice, and then they do something called a tech run through. And they literally, how many of you do tech or whatever? Like, Pastor, you're probably involved in that, Darren. Like, who does like tech stuff, like worship stuff, crew stuff? So when you're doing that, there's like transitions that you don't see until you run through that. And if you do that on Sunday, then you have these hiccups. We call them hiccups. And they're always, that's why we love our 8 a.m. service. We get all the hiccups. We get the hiccups on the 8 a.m. But now we get the hiccups out before, because I'm like, 8 a.m. deserves better. They deserve better. And so we run through every transition between this song and who's saying this and what's going here, because we want it to flow and not have those hiccups. Have you ever had a hiccup in your service? Not a big deal. We laugh, we joke, stuff doesn't work. It's not a big deal. But it does pull you in and out of worship, okay? So when you guys are thinking about that, you just practice, do a tech run through trying to get those hiccups out. And my number one thing, and I can't do it for you guys because now you already know me and I can't do it. And I'm preaching tomorrow. But you should get secret worshiped. And I'm just going to tell your pastor to do this, and he's not going to tell you who it is. But I did this to our church about every year. And I'm telling you, I would get them secret worship. We had a pastor friend of mine, he came in, he secret worshiped our church. He went to the New Here card. He went into the service. He said people were pretty good, it was okay. Greeters were talking to themselves. He kind of had to open his own door. And then he went in and nobody spoke to him in the lobby. And then he went in and sat down and nobody spoke to him. And then he filled out his guest card. We told him, take that to the lobby and you'll get a gift. And he goes out and he literally stood there for like 5 minutes holding the guest card up. Nobody spoke to him. Nobody took the guest card. Because I'm going to tell you something. Listen, we see what we see. We become blind to things. And he gave me that input, and I went and set them down and said, hey guys, look, this, and this. And you know what now? Every person that walks up after that, they were like, is that guy a secret shopper? I'm going to love that guy so good. And I'm not kidding you, the next time somebody come through, he was like, and it was so funny because it was another friend of mine, and I had him secret shop, and the people don't know, they don't know. And they're like, hey, pastor, come here. We got this new guy here today. He is so awesome. I want you to meet him. And I'm like, hey, man, high five. But I was like, they were so on top of it, and I was so proud of them. But they love people like that on a consistent basis. We're always working on it. It's never perfect. But I want to tell you this. It's because the DNA of our church is we want to love people that are far from God. And we want to help them find and follow Jesus. And so listen, Pastor, I love you, that you can create a strategy. Pastor can create a strategy, and I know he's probably really good at that. Pastor can create a strategy, but if we don't put our personal preference down, change the way we think. If guests don't become first and foremost, strategies culture eats strategy for breakfast. Does that make sense? And so it's not, I want to make this very clear. You are all wonderful people. Having opinions is okay. Having personal preferences is okay. But there's a time when we just mature and we go, you know what? There's a bigger picture here. And I'm just going to look at that bigger picture because my Savior saw the big picture when he died on the cross. When he died for me. And see, some of you in here today, you had faith stories that were filled with legacy, and you were some of you did not. And I'm going to tell you, when those people who do not have a legacy of church come into our churches, we have to stop and think, what is that experience like for them? Is it like the restaurant experience that we're never going to return? Is it in that experience that they then go home and slice their wrist or swallow pills? Guys, I want to tell you something. The church is a place for people who are sick to come and find hope and healing. And when we think about that way, when we think about guests that way, listen, I'm telling you, to this day, I have people walk up. I can just tell you story after story. Amanda, Germany, I volunteered at our local grade school. I volunteered every week. I ran our watchdog program there. That was my volunteering time at the school. Me and my wife invested tons of our personal finances into that school. We kept 2 Keurigs there, kept coffee for all the teachers and staff. We bought them all Christmas presents out of our pocket, not through the church. We just did that, and we made donations. And I never wore a church shirt. I have one I'll wear tomorrow, but I never wore a church shirt. I never wore a church hat. I never wore a bunch of Jesus-y stuff. I wasn't trying to slam it down their throat. Didn't bring my goat choker Bible to throw on them. I just loved them day in and day out. And then I would show up to church, and she will tell you, and then the cafeteria lady shows up. And teachers show up. And they just show up because they say, something's different about, and there is something different about this guy. He's got a calling on his life. And they say, there's just something different. He has loved me without an agenda. And when you see those people walk up, I got to be honest with you, the day that I saw Jim and Harley get out of their car, and my daughter's 12, but there have been so many things that she's prayed for, and I can't talk about them now. There's been so many things that she's prayed for that didn't come to fruition, that we were beginning to worry that it was going to impact her faith. And she would pray, and she'd be like, Daddy, I prayed. Why is this happening? And when I got to go to her the other day, and I got to say, look at this new friend you have, and look at what Jesus has done in Jim and Harley's life. And yes, it was a sacrifice for you, but God placed you there for such a time as this. And it took 3 years for God to work in their life. And every single week when I see my church people come back from COVID, or when I see new people come back, I literally am just sitting there, and I'm telling you, my wife will tell you, I get so excited to see everyone, because everyone is a guest and everyone is a greeter. And I'm telling you, church, when you make that transition in your thinking, you're just starting to see people as Jesus sees them. Love people. Love God and love people. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. We can't love people. We cannot love people the way God would have us love them until we first love Him first. And we'll talk about that tomorrow in service. Hey, thank you so much. There's a little bit of time left. If you want to do any questions or answers, my wife has plenty of answers. You guys were fantastic, and I appreciate it.
Let's give Jeff.